morning. It's Wednesday, March 1st, and we have snow on the ground. The first snow in over a year, so that's something to get excited about. But I want to talk today about gas prices. Now, gas prices don't really affect me because I have a hybrid electric car, and I'm always telling you how few times I go to the gas station. Last year, I went to the gas station 3 times. Probably spent a total of $50 in those 3 trips. So I don't worry about gas prices. But I have a question to ask all of you. A question that I have investigated. Will gas prices ever go down? Think about that. Think about the reasons that gas prices probably won't go down much. So I think from now on, and for some period of time, we are going to be looking at gas prices in the $3 range, and that was crazy. But when I think about gas at $3 a gallon, that's a lot of money. If you have to drive to work every day, how many people can really afford to fill up their tank, say, once a week, maybe, or maybe once every 2 weeks? And the tanks are holding maybe 20 gallons? So you're spending $60 to fill up the tank? That's a lot of money. That's a big burden that we're carrying, that the average person is carrying, especially if they have to drive to work every day. Now, I love to drive to work. In fact, when I finally graduated from college, which only took me 10 years, I got a job in Jersey, and I lived in the Bronx, and I went over to Washington Bridge every day to get to work. In those days, the toll on the bridge, if you had a booklet, was $0.25, so it was a great deal, and I loved to drive to work. And then when I was looking for a house to buy, and I looked in Jersey and it was too expensive, I decided we're going to buy the house on Long Island. And I made sure, if I was going to buy a house on Long Island, that I was going to be able to drive to work. And so I hunted and I got a job on Long Island, because I didn't want to ride the railroad. The thought of getting up in the morning and riding the railroad bothered me, so I drove to work my whole life. And I had a lot of different jobs on Long Island. I worked on Long Island for over 40 years, and I drove to work every day. And I would drive into the city if I had to go see people. So driving was a way of life, and I loved it. I still love driving, but I don't like the price of gas. So here's what I know. No single person, company, or even the government can control gas prices. Instead, there are several reasons why Americans are constantly facing increasing pain when they fill up their vehicles. First, let's blame COVID-19. When the pandemic struck, it threw oil markets severely out of whack for 2 years, and they haven't fully recovered from that. Because remember, when the pandemic struck, people stopped going to work. People stopped driving. So when people stop driving, all the fuel that is built up is lying there. It's not being used. And that, of course, causes pressure on the oil companies. If they're not selling their gas, they're in big trouble. So that's what happened. The pandemic is one of the reasons why the gas prices went bonkers. You know, it put a deep dent in the global oil demand, right? Many normal activities shut down, and people who usually drive to work had to stay home. And as a result of that, at one point in April 2020, the gas was down to like $1 or so. That didn't last long. OPEC retaliated, and they went to slash their production because no one wanted to give away barrels of oil at such rock-bottom prices. And since then, the world has slowly gotten through the pandemic, and oil demand came roaring back. But once you shut these wells down, it's not easy to get them back up to production speed, and especially in the U.S., we're an oil-hungry country. So consumers who missed out on travel and other normal activities in 2021 and the beginnings of 22 are making up for lost time now. And oil demand has gone back to where it was pre-COVID. But oil production takes a lot longer to get started than the oil consumption. So now you have this vacillating thing of how much oil do we really need? And how much are we willing to produce? And do we want it to go below $3? So right now the gas prices are hovering around $3.50, $3.40, depending upon what part of the country you are. And California is probably crazy altogether, probably higher than that. And you cannot start a well that has been shut down for a while. It's not easy. And drilling new wells takes a lot of time. And who would invest on a shaky business climate? It's not a cheap thing to open more oil wells. So our oil well production has been affected, and not many people are willing to get into this business because of the expense at startup and the guarantees that we're not going to have the same kind of oil consumption that we had in the past. And let us not forget the fact that many like me are shifting our driving ambitions to hybrid cars or fully electric cars. And countries like Israel are developing electric cars that are really much more efficient than the ones that are currently on the road. So oil is under pressure. They can be losing over the next couple of years a large percentage of their business, because people who love to drive, but they're turning away from gasoline vehicles. And let's not forget about those who believe in the green environment and the gas emissions. There's a lot of pressure on that too. And the war in Ukraine has put pressure on the oil market because Russia is the third largest producer of oil, and they have been blackballed, so to speak. So that's another reason that the price of oil is going up. And then, of course, we have the whole green effort that's going on in the United States and countries around the world, the fight against gas emission. And let's not forget the debacle with the Keystone Pipeline. The shutting down of that pipeline has increased the cost of oil, because transporting that oil by train or truck is a lot more expensive than having a pipeline. And I can go on, but also the one other thing that factors into this whole equation is the fact that everything in this country gets transported by something using gas, and that causes the price of produce to go up. The price of everything on the shelves is going up because the cost of transporting those articles around this country is expensive. So oil is an integral part of our lives, and we are not going to get out from under this high-ticket item in a long time, for a very long time. So I leave you with that. Have a great day. Bye.